But you'd edited after this anyway, didn't you? You'd go on for a period of time and then you'd go and slice.
Yeah, I just...
Not really.
Well, not really. I just...
Very basic.
Just goes up.
Well, you have to be well enough enunciated, I think, on your own. Good luck. No, I won't stand here and...
You're all right, mate. Stand wherever you
I've
like.
got a little introduction to do.
Yeah.
All right.
He's going to be more comfortable for you than out there today.
Oh, yeah. 3, 2, 1. G'day everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Melbourne Punters panel. As usual, I'm joined by a man who was barred from the closing ceremony, Darren Potter. And a bloke who managed to free up an hour yesterday after leaving at 3/4 time. Race straight Ralphie.
Thank you very much, Go D's. And
We had a week off in honour of young Alfred last week, John.
Yes.
So welcome aboard, Alfred.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you and Lara, mate.
Thanks very much. Alfred has started his career flying. He's the world's biggest place punter already. No win betting for him because the amount of second and thirds I back.
Right.
He's just well better off doing that. So yeah, Alfred's at home and he's doing well and
Doing form for Wednesday, is he?
what first thing he said to Mum when he came out was, "Mum, can I go with Dad to sail on Thursday?" So
is this a pair?
yeah, I've got one of each now. So if anyone wants to come to the Gelding, good seats are still available.
And so your first boy, yeah, one of the things when we do these type of things, you've got to give something to yourself. You don't just talk racing, you just your personality as well as your knowledge. So people think, well, this bloke's fair dinkum or not. So you just got to give up a little. Just boy, did you?
No.
Which way are we going there?
No,
any discussion, or it was just never going to happen?
didn't need to. He's all right.
Just like that?
Yeah, just like that. except the difference with his is you can actually find his.
Just hang on a sec. Gary, don't worry about the calamari, mate. just, I'm sweet.
As usual, we're back here at the All Nations Hotel,
Yes.
and we thank them for having us. They've got the fire going for us, so we're fired up and we're ready to go, boys. Been an interesting couple of weeks. There was a bit of a difference in quality from the Saturday meeting at Moonee Valley back to that previous meeting at Caulfield, and probably the one coming up at Caulfield this week.
Couple have emerged in the valley. Couple.
Yes, there was it was a bit that meeting. There's one thing that frustrated me as a participant and someone who has to go.
Yes.
I don't know how you found the day, Ralphie, but I spoke to Potts briefly and a couple of other punters that I've spoken to. I know Moonee Valley has lights, but in August, do we really need to run the last at 5:45?
We're getting death by spreadsheet gurus in our industry.
Correct.
Someone probably, did a PowerPoint presentation about when people are at inside pubs and when people might bet too much. Seriously, no one wants it.
No.
It's not up against Sydney, which is the main criteria. And ultimately, that TVN failed doesn't matter. It was a fact for 10 years there, I reckon most people got into the Melbourne-Sydney mindset for those who don't go to 4 states.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
And the other thing with it is to show the complete lack of coherence. Sydney finished an hour and a quarter before Melbourne did.
Yes.
With the same amount of races. I mean, there's some really good people there at Moonee Valley. Ben Sproul, good man. There's a heap of good guys there at Moonee Valley. But that was, and I'm going to be critical here, that was the worst city meeting I've been in for a long, long time. There was a very small crowd there, and as the day went on, it dwindled. Yes, there was plenty in the members. There was a few upstairs in the marketplace. There was, like, you could have fought. Well, there was one of the 4-place quaddie guys, his big board blew over, and there was no danger of it hitting anyone, that is for sure.
It ran 8th in the first race. Now, so to be fair, I'm trying to give both sides of an argument. So Moonee Valley might say, well, we base this on the fact that people were in pubs, people were at home, people weren't even going to go to races.
Yeah.
So it was better for us to do that. My argument to that was, surely Melbourne and Sydney need to be lockstep for the average Saturday punter. I actually don't do it. Sydney doesn't worry about it, but I'm talking about for 10 years, everyone got in this mindset of Melbourne, Sydney, and it's just a good fit. And that to me is dumb that it not to be there. And in winter, people actually do want to switch on and switch off, and to have it drag through the day is.
Well, the other thing that and you noted this yourself, Boss, because you've had a brief look at the Sydney meeting from Saturday, we're getting to that time of year now where even the people that pretty much solely focus on Melbourne, you need to have some sort of eye on it, because that form will come down here eventually. So we're all wanting to watch that, but it's no good if you then got to watch the first couple of races there, which will be for the first in Melbourne, and then you've still got to be there for the last in Melbourne. It just seemed disjointed. I know they've got lights. Pakenham have done it too. We had another situation that we had with lights with, let's face it, that Cranbourne meeting the other day where we had the guts of the 2-hour break while they moved the rail. If it had been at any other course in Victoria, apart from Pakenham at Moonee Valley, we all have gone home. like, we just seem so keen now to save meetings when it doesn't matter who you stuff around to do it.
No, I mean, what it is, see, I just sat here and listened to you guys have this discussion. What it represents is that there's a complete disjoint between all the three clubs, their approach to things. You know, another example is for Racing Victoria really to take responsibility for it. In 2 weeks' time, I think it's 2 weeks' time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Saturday week. The AFL's having a bye. They're just having a week off. It's middle of the season before the finals is going to disappear.
Yep.
It's a great opportunity for racing to really capture an audience, and a meeting at Moonee Valley is probably not going to do it. So, a meeting at Flemington.
Yeah, if they just swapped the Mackay Diva meeting around by a week.
Now, here's the problem. AFL footy fixture was announced in November last year. That racing is so far up its own clacker that it couldn't work out. You know, you do have to let the tail wag the dog when it's AFL footy.
Yeah.
AFL footy runs Melbourne, full stop. So as soon as you saw a break in it, that should have been the Mackay Day meeting.
He's a chance. He's a
the
chance to
Mackay
capture
group won at
an
Flemington.
audience, right?
And good on Moonee Valley. You know, I've got
Yeah.
a much better record at Moonee Valley than Flemington. It's nothing to do with me personally, but we do know that the reality in this industry is people bet more at Flemington, they attend more at Flemington, with the exception of the bookies out the back in Siberia. But in general, that's where the interest in racing is. So on the weekend off, it should be at Flemington.
Well,
Good on Moonee Valley, but how dumb are the fixturing that when it came out last November that no one identified it.
And the other thing with the MRC is I can't understand why they did it. You like Black Shorts Caulfield as much as anyone else,
Yeah.
but how much interest are you going to have at that Caulfield meeting on Grand Final day?
Well, but that's not going to be a big meeting, is it?
No,
the
because
Friday
you've got
night.
the Friday night
Yeah.
of
I think the big
holiday
issue
being
here
done
is,
on
Justin, what
Sunday.
I'm saying is that there are a lot of people that are heavily focused on the footy at the moment, right? That's their number one interest,
Yeah.
right? If they have a bet, it's a secondary thing. There's a weekend off in the football.
Yeah.
They'll pick up the form guide and they'll go, oh, it's Moonee Valley.
They will.
If it was Flemington, they'd go,
shouldn't.
or it's Caulfield, they'd be excited.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, you know, it's not. It's just the reality of it. Turnover's always lower at Moonee Valley, so it's
that's
a
what
missed
we want to
opportunity for racing.
That's why I think you should qualify, not for fairness, we
Yeah.
can say whatever the fuck we want, but what you're saying is, as a form bloke, you've got a mindset for doing Moonee Valley a certain way, Caulfield, Flemington,
Yeah.
we all do, but for the general public who just starting to tune in on a day off, they would much be more prefer to see Flemington and they'll tune in a bit better.
Absolutely,
Especially
I
if it
want as
wasn't-
many recreational punters
Yes.
involved
Yeah.
in the game, betting and get everyone betting. That's what I want. I don't want a market where all I'm doing is competing with other, big teams. And here's me just chipping away doing my best.
That's it.
It makes it very hard.
And it wouldn't have been that hard because it would have given Flemington that extra week into the Turnbull. Like Flemington's good. That's another thing we can discuss. How I thought Moonee Valley played pretty well considering the amount of rain we had. Yep.
Yep.
And it's really come on from that midweek meeting, hasn't it? Like I had a quick walk down the straight pots, but you walked it and that was something you came back with and said, yeah, this track's really kicked on since the Travel Aid midweek meeting there on the Wednesday. And
Which was a 7 metre rail on a heavy track.
Bog heavy and all
Yeah.
that. But one point about Caulfield that we didn't do the show last week because you selfishly decided to have a baby. But
did your best.
yeah,
Strikers then, 4s and 6s only.
But what we want as punters, we've said this a few times, but some fundamentals don't need to be changed because they remain the same, is no surprises. So Moonee Valley, rail true, bit of rain about,
Yeah.
we expect it to give out a bit, and then eventually there'll be an overcompensation, and that's going to happen. But I thought under that circumstance played perfectly. Week before Caulfield, a rare poor one for Caulfield, and because they elevated, verti-drained, I don't know what the fuck they did, but the times were so much slower than they should have been. And Potts, you sent out to your subscribers beforehand because you went out and walk and it was obvious to you.
That's the first time, because I've only been walking the tracks this year, right? And it's the first time I've walked on the track after it was aerated or whatever it was.
Aerated.
And I went out back for a second look with Jumpy.
Yeah.
And the first thing we both noticed was that, you'd be putting because we use a ski pole to sort of get an idea of how firm the track is. And there were spots where it was just going in like 12 inches.
Yeah.
Because there were holes in the track. I'm like, what's happened? And luckily we ran into one of the track managers because I didn't know.
Hello, Ryan.
Ryan and one of the really tremendous guy. I'd love stopped and had a good chat to us. and he told us exactly what had happened. So, then it became clear that they were going to run slow times.
They were a bit unlucky, Ralph, because what happened was they aerated on the Wednesday afternoon, and then we had 8 mils in an hour on Wednesday night, and those holes filled with water.
That wasn't unlucky, though, Jack. That's lucky. That's perfect for them.
Which as a track manager, is what they want.
Everything's fine. The problem is that so I'd say somewhere along the.
What did you send out to your subscribers having walked the track? Because there's two different.
The track was not rain affected, but they were going to run slow times, and it was going to be a strong test of fitness.
Correct.
Right.
And there was
because it was obvious to you.
Yeah. And there was a lane that was going to be dominant.
So here's the two different arguments here. The first point is, was it necessary to aerovate, further drain, whatever?
I reckon they probably do it every year.
No, that's what I was about to say. Let experts be experts.
Yeah, and that's what those
Jason Kerr's an expert. His team's an expert. I don't know if it is, but I couldn't give a fuck. They know what they're doing, and do it. But the second point is, don't keep us in the dark. Now, 4 different information streams are racing. 4. The Stewart's Twitter handle.
Yep.
Sam Hyland, the track walker.
Yep.
Caulfield's Twitter handle. And Jason Kerr on 3UZ on 6:30 on Saturday morning. Not one of those 4 outlets said what Pot said to his subscribers. So it was obvious, the information was there, but it wasn't underlined that this will be a different type of track. Now, had you known that, and for instance, I was on Girl Guide. Now, I'm a fucking idiot for being on Girl Guide because I was expected to elevate second up.
Yeah.
It had Betfair Ice, it didn't turn up, probably because it ran like shit first up for a reason. I'd read something into it, so that's all that aside. But had I known the track was going to be rain affected, seeing what it did at the Bull the same day Voodoo Lake went like a jet on the wet, I wouldn't have even thought about it.
It wasn't really rain affected though, Ralph.
No, but it was wet track winners.
I think what it was really fit horses.
Yeah.
So horses that had the fitness base from running on rain affected tracks had a significant advantage.
So good on you and rewarded by your subscribers for walking the track and bad me for not walking it. What I'm saying is, this is a mindset the industry needs to change. The industry needs to say, we're going to give as much accurate, quality information as possible to people and let them decide. Now, it will make lesser edges for you or for anyone else who walks the track, but you'll still back your expertise over others and all that type of thing, as we do with figures and things like that. But you can't be trying to say, good track today, gives good cover and good give. What the fuck does that mean? So it raced lengths slower.
It was certainly different to the previous meeting, wasn't it?
It was a different.
Yeah. So
It
just
was a
tell
completely
people,
different set of circumstances.
we'll still get them wrong at times, and hopefully we'll try and get them right in the long term, but give us the right information.
I think
we'll be back to Caulfield this Saturday, and it'll be
fantastic.
It'll be back to
excellent.
Well, unless it just keeps raining for the rest of the week, like it has been. But
It makes me wonder about some of the previous meetings there where it's played as I didn't expect.
Keep in mind,
it shows the value of walking the track. I mean, the track's in superb order. So anyway,
that's something that you've noted over the last week or a couple of weeks. What's is the health of the 4 metropolitan tracks here in Melbourne is just, apart from just that bottom of the hill at Sandown, the rest of them are just in remarkable health considering the weather we've had.
Yeah, even that situation in Sandown's not to do with the health of the track.
No, it's just about topography.
Yeah, geometry or whatever you want to call it. But the Moonee Valley's been the one that's been lagging behind.
Yeah.
And it's made a good jump to catch up with the growth in that track.
I
do really worry about the Friday night into Cox Plate situation again. If they move that rail out 2 metres again, they are asking for trouble. So I don't really want to give away what's a good edge for me and my subscribers, but there's a lane there that was pretty dominant on Saturday. There's a good reason for it, and it's not going to change.
Was the lane 3 back the fence?
No.
Buried. Yeah. Could someone please tell me why? So we'll get to the actual information about the races in general. Could someone tell me why, when French Motion was $3.50 up to $5, and drawn barrier 7, and within 200 metres, Ben Mellons made a beeline for the inside 3 back defence, that stewards didn't ask him that question as to why he thought that was a good idea. Could someone tell me why? Never mind why Ben Mellon thought it was a good idea. Why did stewards not think it would be a good idea to ask him, given Pat Bartley writes glowing pieces about the data room and things like that? Because what it told me, I was on French Motion, but I thought, and I knew we'd get back, I knew, and I saved it a certain way. But
I can tell you now, I mapped it 3 wide with colour, so...
There we go. Now, it jumped a little bit awkwardly, which meant it could have been 4 back 3 1 with cover, following Catch a Fire, and then made the best horse win. And Catch a Fire may have been too good for it, but it would have had the momentum free run. But when a horse is drifting like that and goes to Shitsville, 3 back defence at Moonee Valley, if stewards don't ask questions, people who do form ask themselves how much stewards know about reading races.
That's
to be fair.
That's the key thing that the stewards probably should have asked.
Well, I mean, it's constantly when these things come up, and it reflects that the stewards have got too much to do and not enough time to do it because they focus on the really obvious things. Or they don't. I don't know. They don't seem to scratch the surface enough.
Wouldn't that be an obvious thing, though? Somebody saying there's focus.
Well, but the point, I listened to a little bit of Terry Bailey on Sunday, and the question they did ask was why Damien Oliver rode off the fence on the lead of Monkey Magic in was it the previous race or the race after the race at Sweet Cherry one. So a concern then.
Let me finish, but I just want to say I saw them write about that in the stewards report. The race after, they didn't ask about French emotion. I thought, what are we focusing on? So what did he say? Because I didn't listen.
Well, they accepted Damien Oliver's explanation that he thought the better lane was off the fence.
So
that was a really difficult track for leaders on Saturday because to be in the best lane, you would have had to be in front 3 off the fence, and then the stewards really would have asked some questions.
Yeah, if you're leading 3 off the fence, then
what odds was Monkey Magic? 10s or something?
Yeah, but something like that. Yeah.
Right, so they focus on the best jockey in Australia. Okay, let's say best 5, best in Victoria. Let's say best 3, if you want to argue.
He wouldn't be in the top 10 in New South Wales, though, enough.
One of the greats in career best form, who walks the tracks fastidiously, who finds the right lane on a $10 shot, and because he doesn't hug the rails and the horse behind him who's a better horse gets past him, they open inquiry into that, but they don't ask why Ben Mellon will swing back the fence, which by the way, this is not accusing Ben Mellon of anything, but what I'm saying is, if they ask him that question, we then learn something, and it's Mellon was, after just the one jump out, Mellon thought that it was a bit short of fitness after an awkward beginning, thought he'd try and nurse and ride for luck. And you cop it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to see no questions asked.
If I was talking to David Oliver before that race, I would have said do what you did, but sit 3 off the fence.
Exactly.
If he'd have sat in front 3 off the fence, he would have made it really hard for the horses behind him and around him. He probably still wouldn't have won because he wasn't on a horse strong enough to do that. Because that was a hard thing to do there on Saturday. But as far as Ben Mellon goes, you missed the start, Ben. Fine, okay. But your decision to then cut back to the rail, all that says to me is a big flashing light on you, Ben. I've done no homework.
Yeah.
I don't know where the best lane is on this track. You were trying to take shortcuts. You eventually did swing out into the wider lanes in the home straight, but you put yourself in a situation where it was probably impossible to win the race.
And you were obviously, refused to lose well because you're on it when it won at centre. So refused to lose in that Prussian Vixen. Did you also think that the leaders were a big doubt? So the last thing you wanted to do was be on the leaders who would probably be going to have the heart attack on the home turn, which they ended up doing.
Absolutely. I focused very heavily on Saturday horses that were going to be just off pace and off the rail because they were going to get in the right lines. So,
I've got a bit of a hero of the week this week, boys.
Alan Crichton?
No, whoever's controlling LuxBet's Twitter account, either you are a complete goldfish or the best Twitter expert troll I've ever come across. A picture of Winks, arguably the greatest mare we've ever seen. 10 in a row for Winks. Okay.
Well, he might be young.
Well,
very young.
Unless you've got a 4-year-old running it, Potts. It's either expert level trolling because
it's not trolling, it's clickbaiting.
Well, it blew up.
Yeah.
So what did he say? Arguably.
Arguably the greatest.
At least he said arguably.
Well, I don't know.
Who wants to argue for Winks?
Yeah, that's true.
She needs to win about 3 more Cox plates.
Arguably, the 3 of us have got Usain Bolt covered for speed and Brad Pitt covered for looks, arguably, but probably not.
Hats off. I hope it is trolling and you've just got completely carried away and you must have the shortest memory in the world. Because if you've forgotten Black Caviar, Sunline, Makybe Diva, Let's Alone.
The greatest staying man that's ever existed.
So they're owned by the tab.
Yes, they are.
Did you see the tab sent out a zinger on footy on Friday night? That honestly, you had to wear 3 pairs of underpants. It was that funny. This pot's just getting the fire going. And I thought, well, surely this bloke's on his way to be working for John Oliver or Jimmy Kimmel in the US. That's how it was like. Maybe beating Melbourne, isn't that funny? Or something about Hawthorn. It was like, oh my God, people get paid for this. So it's just if they're doing it, if that's the same bloke.
I'm just going to give a shout out to a friend of mine who hopefully is coming along, and a friend of ours at Ozbet on Twitter. His role in my children's life is to make sure they never, ever, ever become the people who are responsible for the Twitter handles and social media campaigns of corporate bookmakers. Because the Olympics has just been... It's been... I'm going to speak from the heart here. You people have ruined the Olympics. You should be banned from the closing ceremony
you cannot
for these gifts.
You cannot follow it.
I understand, but Ralph, I mean, it's just gone too far. You're stealing a living, people.
So can I just say, like we've started off with a lot of negativity here. On the other side of the coin, punters, despite all the nonsense that goes on around us, we are moving into a great time of the year for our industry and for us as punters. So we've battled our way through the winter.
Battles,
those have been, been getting my full sets have made a profit over that period. Admittedly, coming off the back of the second half of April and May, that weren't much good, but we've had a lot of winning meetings lately and very few losing ones that have only been small. So we're coming to a great period. Things really heated up on the weekend, particularly in Sydney. And it's just a warning to the Melbourne trainers and everything else. You're going to have to get your horses tuned up because these horses coming down from Sydney are looking very hard to beat. And so any thought of slowly run races and bringing your horses along slowly and all that sort of business, forget about it. If you do that, it'll just become a feast for the Sydney horses.
Well, the couple of years about battle through window, a couple of years ago or whatever, I started doing this seriously and I was going well and then hit the wet tracks. And a friend of ours, who will remain nameless, but his initials are Dan Kelly, he said, I think worked out it's almost more profitable to actually sponsor the family on a holiday.
Yeah, just to go away for 3 months a year.
I think he's regretted a bit since then, but that's the reality. It's always tougher on the wet tracks, and particularly through that time we had 4 or 5 tracks where it was brutal headwinds as well, so it just completely fucked the form. So anyway, looking forward to better weather and better horses. I'm totally with you, Potts. And as we touched on, the good part away from what we said was the tracks in Melbourne look like they're going to play superbly well.
Yeah, I'm not going to encourage anyone to have winter off. I think there's still good money to be made, but you've got to, particularly in Melbourne, you've got to be very careful because you've got a mix of some bottomless tracks out at the wider tracks, the synthetic stuff that completely falls over when it comes to turf, and the city tracks that drain really well. So it is a bit tricky and you've got to pick your mark, but there is still money to be made over winter. So keep punting, keep betting, keep punting everyone.
And boys, don't let me getting pneumonia put you off coming out of the track during winter either. Because the facilities are first rate at some of these courses.
Jumpy's immunity.
But if you go to Caulfield, you'll be indoors.
If you go to Caulfield, it's happy days. We've had some viewer interaction. We thank everyone for that. You can RT Ralphie on Twitter and at the picnics on Twitter, or head to one to follow them. I'm sure you can hit them up there. We've had a question from Warrie Simble, and I'll put it to both of you. Question for the boys, having come from Sydney. We now have such a large team. We're regularly seeing multiple runners in a race like we have for years up here in Sydney with Waller. Do the boys find nailing the correct weird runner in these events easier to do than punters have to deal with the Waller-a-thon up north?
No.
I've yet to have a problem. I've got to say, but I think probably everything's got a tipping point, and by that I mean nothing against Darren Weir, but if you're in the ownership of the 4th or 5th or 6th favourite in a race of just the Weirs runners, eventually say, oh, gee, I'd rather get the deluxe at a smaller trainer or something. And eventually there'll be a tipping point, but all I can say is we'll get to the races later. But you look at Royal Rapture, and there it is winning its 10th race for the prep after one, its 9th race for the prep after one, its 8th race for the prep. So as a punter, and I don't do Sydney form, but you see at times the blow-ups on Twitter and all that with when there's form reversals. I think Weir horses are remarkably consistent, and all that is a tick to him, his whole regime, and he is, to me, the punter's pal.
Do you find it hard picking the right ones?
You disagree?
The right ones of Weirs in the race?
I disagree. I think it's an incredible stable.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing but full credit to them. All I will say is when they bet, when people connected to the stables bet, particularly late, it means that horse is going to find the line.
But
Right,
that's,
they know which ones
that's
are
punter's
really
belt.
going to find the line. Right?
that's
So,
punter's belt. You don't find the tide. Swim with it.
yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just. I think, that's like Ken's Dream was there on Saturday.
Well,
Yeah, Dean Endles had a case of the dropsies here on Saturday. He dropped the reins on Ken's Dream, and so what was it?
did he drop the reins at the Sebring Sun last?
Yeah, and
Oh.
Sebring Sun.
Yeah, you just.
I don't know if it really affected the horse, but it just ran out of fitness. But it didn't find the line.
Give him.
But
Sorry.
yeah, the right punters. The only horse from the Weir stable they identified there on Saturday was Ken's Dream, and there it was. But Royal Rapture they didn't, and it ran well too. Mate, so I'm sort of agreeing with what you're saying. I mean, I've got a better and better handle on the Weir stable as I've moved through it. It's got better, but there is still a component that troubles me a little bit.
What I'm saying is that we runners building the
Yeah,
track,
like it's...
and then they maintain probably, and I don't want this to sound like a slight against Mick Price or any time we say it, it's not personal unless we want it to be personal. But like I think if you say a typical Mick Price horse, they come to play early, and then they might taper off a bit. And old Picardo might be something of an example of that. But all we're saying is, of course we're generalising, because that's what you've got to do.
Yeah.
But that was one thing that, we'll call it a nugget from DK, was that don't be put off by the Weir First Up horses. They've actually got a positive ROI back in the Weir First Up, whereas I think if you listen to the mainstream media, they'll say that it's the third up is when you want to be on them. We've also had another a tweet in from Wagering Fiend. He said 4 first up...
Is that his real name? Wagering Fiend?
No, but his Twitter handle says, penniless and desperate, the punter's my only hope.
Yeah, he's a good.
He's definitely
Welcome
our
to
man.
Nothing against him.
First 4 winners at the Valley plus fields for Wednesday indicate a lot of horses moving from Saturday to Wednesday races. I'm guessing I'm a week late to notice a shift up in class for both days. Spring looks like it may have nearly sprung.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, generally you're right. I've looked at the fields for Wednesday and done some maps. They're big fields. There's 130 acceptors there on Wednesday, and there are some good races. So.
Well, I reckon it was this meeting last year that Secret Agenda returned at Spieth. So there were some good horses emerged, and that's true. There is a changeover of horses going, but every now and then you get to keep into account fitness.
Yeah.
We saw that. We'll get to the races, but we saw that Royal Rapture Polo to say, and I reckon that was fitness versus talent.
Yeah.
And we'll get now. We're talking about stats. You just said ROI. It just reminded me of something. So 2 weeks ago, before the Lawrence.
Yep.
About 2 minutes ago, so I took the mute button off, and I heard that no mare had won the Lawrence since 1999. Do you factor that in with your work? Now,
but hang on, Ralph. If Winks had been in the race,
well,
arguably the greatest mare since
we've ever seen.
Nate Silver, if you have any interest both in predictive analysis but also the American politics, Nate Silver's a genius. He wrote a book called The Signal and the Noise.
Yeah.
It's all about getting rid of shit and finding the nuggets that actually mean something. That is shit that a mare hadn't won since 1999. So, did it affect the chances? Now, I vetoed Miss Rosalago. Did you like one of those in the race? Or don't know if you did?
Miss Rosalago.
Mr. A. Well, I don't know, high five. So, what you have to do is say, can this stat be relevant to the wagering situations, or is it just a fact of no relevance whatsoever? Now, I respect certain parts of the way history can undo patterns, but can you tell me that the fact that Peter Moody decided not to run Black Caviar in the MG 5 years ago, or David Hayes missed Finland, or Trevor McKee Sunline,
or Chris Chris Waller with Winks not deciding to start her a week early down here.
So can you say that the fact that any of those 3 champion mares didn't run in the Lawrence, how did that affect the chances of Miss Rose Largo or Suavito on the day? It had no effect whatsoever.
I'll tell you what, because we're trying to be positive here.
No, I'm getting
I'm saying that Shane Anderson, because he was the one guilty there. Shane, if you'd have gone out and walked the track and communicated to your viewers that it had been aerated and it was going to that fitness was going to be at a premium, you might have told them that a horse that you wouldn't naturally see as a good chance in that race, like Jacqueline Bay, all of a sudden was a significant player in that race because it had a fitness advantage. And that fitness advantage just highlights the point of our previous...
I'm getting a positive, right? So what I'm saying is, ask yourself that as a putter. That's the best tip I can give you this spring, because what happens as racing gets more media space, we get more shit spoken about the industry, and that's good, because we want to bet against that.
Yeah.
Now, so then I got in touch with Daniel O'Sullivan, who's probably, I think, Australia's preeminent stats.
He's the guy that when I've got a question, that's who I fire off to.
So
him and Adam Blanco, like between those two, I'd usually be able to dig the answer up.
Well, is that a more history side of things, or is he more...
Bit of both. They've both got very good databases.
Yeah, but anyway, so
hi guys.
They're both. Adam gave us one of the best sprays of the time. The top clothes that you wear if you have your bad day at the gym, and it was fair enough. But so I got in touch with Daniel. I said, so right, let's try and look at the other side of it. What is a good stat that you could have used going into that meeting if you're going to use statistics in racing? Because I've never said that relevant statistics aren't relevant.
No.
Irrelevant statistics are relevant.
Is that like Melbourne having to win by
there it is,
1,500 points this week?
So, who won the race? Well, Damien Oliver with the record rider Mr. Price Largo. I thought, well, previous 2 weeks earlier, Lord of the Sky owned the race, and previous 2 weeks earlier, Miss Wild Rain.
Yeah.
So he's in the zone on. But he's not just that. He walks the tracks, and he's a great judge of which horse to get on. So I said, Damien Oliver on. So he didn't ride at the start prior.
Yeah.
Damien Oliver going onto a horse. He could have ridden the horse at a previous part of its life, but just not the previous start. In a Melbourne Stakes race, since the start of 2015, single figure odds. So a horse in the market, Ollie on, Stakes race, Melbourne.
Yep.
55 rides, 21 wins.
There you go.
38% strike rate, 74% profit on turnover. So if you want a stat you can use, that's from Daniel O'Sullivan, the Ratings Bureau, because we credit people and that is a stat you can use in Melbourne.
Well, I would have. I'm negative and solutions based, so I'm both. What I would have followed up with that stat was then followed on with there's 2 mares in the race, and as you and I discussed when we walked the track pods, those 2 jumped out together.
Yes.
Damien Oliver jumped off Suavito, threw the reins back to Nigel Blake and said, I'm riding that next Saturday.
He was tracking it.
Well, he was tracking it. He was seeing it.
He was seeing it
sail
fall
off
away
into the sunset.
Yeah, what's the phrase? The gap was going faster than he was.
Can I just say the narrative behind the stats, if you like, is that Damien Oliver's a hungry little man who loves money. Okay, so them stakes races, they're worth more money. So he makes sure he's riding the right horses in those races.
Motivation's important.
And absolutely, I'm saying to the punters to use that to your advantage.
Just to finish off part 1, guys, we at the last convening of
too long to download the first time. Last was a big file.
We won't get into that. I'm still having nightmares. We asked for possible names for the show, and we had a couple come in, and we'll follow on. Wagering Fiend tweeted in the Melbourne Wagering and Fashion Weekly Variety Show. Paul Sebastiani off Twitter, he said 3 wise men. Probably that's really false advertising. And Crowform said the ask holes. Ask holes is probably about as close as it's going to get, but I'm not sure we'll get that through.
To be quite honest, I want everyone to be able to find us. Now, given that I'm talking to the people that have already found us, it's not really going to happen.
Well, there was one other, wasn't there, from David Flocky. He said the almost impossible to find show.
Yeah, well, we want to be easy to find. So for the moment, we'll call it the Melbourne Pro Punters Panel, and until someone comes up with a better idea.
Now,
before we already download, you just write so Optus.
Oh, we're still. If you want to know that we don't have the halftime scores of the EPL yet from Saturday night, it's still buffering. Now, David, before you ask, This show won't be up on Monday night because there's probably not much chance I'm going to be home on Monday night. So we'll be back with part 2 to have a flick through the Mooney.
And just in case anyone's wanting, the pro punters part of that is really about us being for punters. We're on the side of punters. So, and also we make some money out of the game. So anyway, back for part 2.